The operations manager of the Magampur port in Hambantota, Chaminda Bandara, noted that this was the 100th ship to arrive at the port since June 2012, carrying imported vehicles and vehicles intended for re-exportation. The port operations manager said the Singaporean freighter, the Israelis, arrived at the Magampur port at about 4:57 last evening. The annual Nanamura festival of the Thanivalla Mahadevalaya in Chilla was held yesterday.
The annual Nanamura festival, which is dedicated to the Thanivalla god of the Thanivalla Mahadevalaya, commenced at 10:30 last morning. Special offerings were made to the god at the festival. Following the offerings, around 5,000 devotees offered alms to the gods. The Thanivalla Devalaya in Madampe, Chilau has a history that runs back to the time of King Parakramabahu VIII of the Kotte era.
Well, News First Citizen Journalism Initiative, News First You Report, has reached unprecedented heights, with our network of citizen journalists growing on a daily basis.
A special workshop was held today for a group of citizen journalists who are part of the News First You Report initiative.
The workshop was held at the auditorium, the head office of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited in Colombo today. Numerous registered You reporters from across the island participated in the program held today. News First resource personnel imparted their knowledge on news reporting to the participants and also gave them an understanding of the role of the citizen journalist. Following the workshop, the participants were treated to a tour of the News First Centre and Studio Complex.
Regarding the organization and the details as given by the lecturers, and we all are very successful, I think, in my opinion.
Thank Fushira sir for organizing such an event, and I wish all the best for the future success of this event. Thank you.
You're watching News First, and up next is a look at Action TV.
The land rights of the villages of Sorivilla, a traditional village in Dimbulagala, incorporated into the Mahavali B-zone in 1985, are limited in accordance with Mahavali regulations. Each family owns 2.5 acres of muddy land. The lands that have been distributed among the people of Sorivilla are incidentally not their traditional agricultural lands.
The old paddy fields are overgrown. We do not reap anything from them. The other fields had natural fertilizer. They allocated those for the wildlife department and gave us fields of sand, which are absolutely useless.
Although reservoirs are constructed at all new Mahavali scheme settlements, there is no reservoir for the village of Sorivilla, which was dragged into the Mahavali scheme. Thereby, the farmers continue to rely on the ancient villa or waterhole that gave rise to the establishment of the settlement of Sorivilla. This waterway, the waterhole at the end of the waterway, and the farmland on either side of the waterway bear testament to the fact that no water comes through this waterway. Constructed by the Mahavali authority, running from the reservoir constructed at the Dalukan settlement with the intention of turning this waterhole into a reservoir.
There are various schemes including rainwater farming schemes. Then there is a fertilizer scheme. They gave fertilizer to all the surrounding villages except Sorivilla. In the end, we have to ask ourselves whether we should institute change ourselves. Sometimes we are made to think that this is being done to us, maybe because we are Tamil. But who are we to take these grievances to?
Even 30 years after the implementation of the Mahavali scheme, doesn't the fact that the 350 families of Sorivilla are yet to experience the scheme's intended social transformation reflect the results of unequal treatment? Minister of Irrigation and Water Resource Management, this is over to you.
Well, we received this report which demonstrates the potential of human beings to extend kindness to other beings from Ambegoma in Mahava.
This group of wild boar fell into this abandoned well last night. A woman residing in the area has notified her neighbors when she discovered the trapped animals this morning. Subsequently, residents took various efforts to rescue the stranded animals. After much effort, they succeeded in rescuing the 6 wild boars that had fallen into the well.
Yesterday on News First, we reported on the lives of gypsies of a Telugu village in Mihintale.
Tonight, News First Manju Thenura brings us more on the lives of these gypsies.
There isn't much to see on your palm. The wealth line is good and so is the lifeline. There are no obstacles for you in your travels and your occupation. You are talented at earning money, even in getting 2 rupees into your hand, much like the English. May you be blessed by the Khatragama gods. You will have no troubles.
From birth, the gypsies learn the skills of fortune telling, snake charming and training monkeys. It is not like before. People feel disgusted when they see snake charming. Yes, there is inconvenience. There is no acceptance among people. People blame us for charming serpents and not doing what they call a proper job since we have our limbs.
When they go to a home, they call us snake charmers and soothsayers and call us nomads who are here today and gone tomorrow.
These people earn less than 400 rupees a day through snake charming, fortune telling and performing monkeys. During our visit, we came to understand that the gypsy elders maintain their families amid much difficulty.
මම කතාවකට අහලා තියෙනවා මේ අහිගුණ්ඩක ජාතිකයන් තනින් තැනට යන්නේ එක තැනක ඉන්න දවස් 7යි කියලා. කතාව ඇත්තද? ඒක ඉතින් කතාවට ඒකයි.
It is just a story or a lie. The story, if we stay for 7 days, there will be worms, is a lie.
Over 75 children from 35 families live in this gypsy encampment. No more than 10 of these children have an education. Tomorrow on News First, we have more on the gypsies of this encampment who get by on 1 square meal a day.
News First at 9.
The European Union leaders Herman Van Rompuy and Jose Manuel Barroso have given warning to Egypt's army and interim government that the bloc was ready to review ties, failing an end to violence and return to dialogue.
Now, in a release issued today, the presidents of the European Council and the European Commission said that further escalation could have unpredictable consequences for Egypt in the region.
The presidents of the European Council and the European Commission, Van Rompuy and Barroso, said that the calls for democracy and fundamental freedoms from the Egyptian population cannot be disregarded, much less washed away in blood. They said, quote, in cooperation with its international and regional partners, the EU will remain firmly engaged in efforts to promote an end to violence, resumption of political dialogue and return to a democratic process. To this effect, together with its member states, the EU will urgently review in the coming days its relations with Egypt and adopt measures aimed at pursuing these goals, unquote. The statement was released 24 hours before senior diplomats from the 28 EU nations hold emergency talks on Egypt in Brussels, in which they are expected to call for a snap meeting of foreign ministers within the next days. Meanwhile, world leaders continue to come out in condemnation of the crackdown in Egypt. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan compared Egypt's military rulers to the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
Mosques are holy places, but they have destroyed mosques and set them ablaze both in Syria and Egypt. Bashar and Sisi are no different from each other. We in Qatar are very worried about the large number of victims in Egypt. We send out our condolences to the families of the victims. Qatar has always rejected violence, and in this case we are shocked by the violence against civilians on religious institutions, churches and mosques. The Arab region cannot deal with more crises and shocks. We call for an end to violence.
Wir sind bestürzt
We are shocked and distressed by the ongoing brutal violence in Egypt. The latest deaths on the streets of Cairo and other Egyptian towns fill us with grief but also with disgust. The Egyptian leaders must now, together with the opposition, must agree on a way to de-escalate the violence. There is no alternative than to hold discussions, to work for dialogue and a de-escalation. The chance to restart the political process must not be gambled away for good.
Nicht endgültig verspielt werden.
Convening a news conference in Cairo yesterday, Egypt's presidential political advisor Mustafa Hegazi noted that Egypt will continue to combat extremism and terrorism.
We will combat extremism and we will combat terrorism not only by security measures but by the rule of law, by making sure that we have the proper framework of human rights established, and by making sure that we're continuing our proper path to democracy as we promised and we will fulfill.
Meanwhile, Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood has called for fresh demonstrations after police ended a tense standoff with protesters in a Cairo mosque. A statement by the Anti-Coup Alliance said several marches would take place in the Egyptian capital this afternoon, continuing the daily campaign of protests in defiance of an intensifying crackdown.
Do we know who won this?
No, we're not saying that. Well, British police have said they're assessing new information about the deaths of Princess Diana and her boyfriend Dodi Al-Fayed in a Paris road crash in 1997.
London's Metropolitan Police did not elaborate on the information or its source, but Britain's Sky News television station said it had come from the parents-in-law of a former soldier and had been passed on by the Royal Military Police. Sky said it understood the new information included an allegation that the deaths of Diana, Dodi and their driver were caused by a member of the British military. A royal spokeswoman said there would be no comment. The Metropolitan Police said in a statement that it was assessing the relevance and credibility of information into the deaths that it had recently received. Diana and Dodi and their chauffeur were killed when their car crashed in a road tunnel while pursued by photographers after the couple left the Ritz Hotel in Paris on the 31st of August 1997. Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, alleged that the couple had been killed on the orders of the British establishment. Stevens concluded there was no evidence of murder and said the driver Paul had been drunk and going too fast. A 2008 inquest in London returned a verdict of unlawful killing and said Paul and the photographers were to blame for the deaths. Investigators in France have also dismissed allegations of murder, and in 2008, Mohammed Al-Fayed announced he was abandoning his 10-year campaign to prove the couple were killed for the sake of Diana's sons, Princes William and Harry.